My name is Clara, and I am 28 years old. If you ask anyone in my neighborhood, they will tell you I have the perfect life. A beautiful home, a handsome and successful husband, and everything a woman could ever ask for. People look at me with admiration, even envy. But if only they knew the truth. Every morning I wake up in a house that feels more like a golden cage than a home. The floors shine, the furniture is expensive, and the paintings on the walls are worth more than some people's yearly salaries. But there is no warmth here. There is no love. Only control. Only fear. Daniel, my husband, is everything a woman is supposed to want. He is charming, respected, and generous. At least that's what the world sees. In public, he holds my hand, kisses my forehead, and speaks about me like I am his most precious treasure. But behind closed doors, his love suffocates me. He decides what I wear, where I go, and who I talk to. At first, I told myself it was just his way of protecting me, that he loved me too much. That's what he always said. I only want what's best for you, Clara. But love isn't supposed to feel like a trap, is it? The first time he raised his voice at me, I was shocked. The first time he grabbed my wrist too hard, I convinced myself it was an accident. And the first time he hit me, I told myself it would never happen again. But it did. Again and again. And yet, I smiled. I smiled at dinner parties, I smiled when neighbors visited, I smiled when my family called. Because who would believe me? Who would believe that the perfect husband they all adored was the same man who locked me in my own house when I displeased him? I told myself that I could live like this, that maybe it wasn't so bad. But deep down, I knew I had to leave. I just didn't know how. And worse, I didn't know what he would do if I tried. I had to be careful. Daniel was always watching. If I spent too long on my phone, he wanted to know who I was texting. If I went out, he made me call him every hour. If I looked unhappy, he would tighten his grip, reminding me that I was his, that this was the life I had chosen. But I hadn't chosen this. Not really. I knew that if I wanted to leave, I couldn't just pack my bags and walk out the front door. Daniel would never allow it. He had too much to lose. His reputation, his image, the illusion of a perfect marriage. If I left, people would start asking questions, and Daniel didn't like questions. So, I had to be smart. I started small. I found an old phone I had hidden in the back of my closet, one he didn't know about. I charged it when he was at work, making sure to erase any trace. I used it to search for shelters, for lawyers, for anything that could help me escape. At night, I lay awake, listening to Daniel's breathing beside me, wondering how much time I had before he discovered what I was doing. And then, one afternoon, I saw my chance. Daniel had an important meeting, one that would keep him out late. It wasn't much time, but it was enough. I stuffed a small bag with essentials, money I had secretly saved, a few clothes, my phone. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would break through my ribs. I took a deep breath and reached for the front door. My hands were shaking. I turned the knob slowly, careful not to make a sound, and then the door wouldn't budge. I pulled harder, still nothing. My stomach twisted. I turned and ran to the back door. Locked. The windows? Locked. Panic rose in my throat. That was when I saw it. The security system. The one Daniel had installed for my safety. The one he controlled. I wasn't just trapped in a marriage, I was trapped in my own home. My chest tightened as I stared at the security panel on the wall. A small red light blinked steadily, mocking me. He had locked me in. I felt sick. Had he always done this? Was every moment of my life under his control, even when I thought I was alone? I had to think. Panicking wouldn't help me now. I took slow, shaky breaths and forced myself to sit down. If I let fear take over, I would lose. Daniel had spent years making me doubt myself, making me feel powerless. But I wasn't powerless, not anymore. I grabbed my secret phone and checked the messages I had sent earlier. One of them was to an old friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in years because Daniel had pushed everyone away from me. She was one of the few people who had suspected the truth. She had replied, "Clara, tell me where you are, I'll come." Hope flickered in my chest. I quickly typed, "I can't get out, he locked me in." 3 dots appeared. She was typing. Then her message came, "I'm calling the police." I froze. The police? I wanted to believe they could help me, but the thought terrified me. What if they didn't believe me? What if Daniel convinced them it was just a misunderstanding? He was charming. He had connections. He could make me look like the crazy one. Then another thought struck me. If the police showed up at the house while Daniel was gone, he would know. He would know I had tried to escape, and that meant I wouldn't be safe, even if they let me go. I quickly typed, "No, not yet. Let me try something first." I had one last idea. It was risky, but it was my only chance. I grabbed the metal rod from the fireplace and walked to the window in the guest bedroom. It was the only window that didn't have reinforced glass. I had always thought it was because Daniel didn't care about that room. Now I was grateful for his oversight. I raised the rod, took a deep breath, and swung with all my strength. The glass shattered. An alarm blared through the house. My ears rang, but I didn't stop. I cleared the jagged edges, grabbed my bag, and climbed through the broken frame, ignoring the sharp pain as glass bit into my hands. I hit the ground running. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get away before Daniel found out what I had done. Because if he caught me, I wasn't sure I would survive this time. I ran. My feet pounded against the pavement as I sprinted down the empty street. The cold night air burned my lungs, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Behind me, the house loomed like a prison I had finally broken free from, its alarm still blaring. I clutched my bag tightly. My hands were bleeding from the glass, but I barely felt the pain. All I could hear was my own heartbeat, fast and terrified. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to put as much distance between me and Daniel as possible before he realized I was gone. I didn't trust the police. I didn't trust the people who smiled at us in town, the ones who would probably call Daniel first if they saw me running like this. But there was one person I did trust. I fumbled for my phone and called the only friend I had left. The phone barely rang once before she picked up. "Clara?" Her voice was sharp with worry. "Where are you?" "I don't know," I gasped, glancing around. The street was dimly lit, lined with quiet houses. "I just ran." My voice cracked. "I think he locked me in on purpose. I had to break a window to get out." "Jesus," she whispered. "Okay, listen to me. Keep running. I'm coming to get you." I wanted to cry. What if he finds me first? "He won't," she said firmly. "Just tell me where you are." I turned a corner and spotted a small park up ahead. "I'll wait for you at the old playground near my house, the one with the blue swings. I'm on my way." I hung up and forced myself to keep moving. The alarm from my house had finally stopped. That meant Daniel knew. Or worse, he was on his way home. I reached the playground and ducked behind a row of bushes, trying to catch my breath. My entire body was shaking. I hugged my knees to my chest, pressing my forehead against them. Was this really happening? After years of feeling trapped, had I actually done it? Then, the sound of tires screeching made my blood run cold. A black car sped down the street, its headlights cutting through the darkness. My heart nearly stopped. It was Daniel's car. I shrank further into the shadows, praying he wouldn't see me. He slowed down as he passed the playground. I held my breath. For a moment, I thought he would stop, that he would get out, search for me, and drag me back. But then, he hit the gas and sped off. I didn't move until the sound of his engine faded into the distance. And then, finally, I heard another car pull up. My friend. I stumbled out from my hiding place just as she jumped out of the driver's seat. The moment she saw me, she ran forward and pulled me into a tight hug. "You're safe now," she whispered. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to believe it. The car smelled like vanilla and something familiar. Safety. I collapsed into the passenger seat, my hands still shaking, my heart still pounding. My friend Olivia glanced at me, her eyes filled with worry. "Clara," she said softly, "you're bleeding." I looked down at my hands. Blood streaked my fingers, my palms cut from the glass. I hadn't even noticed the pain. It was nothing compared to the fear still racing through me. "I don't care," I whispered. "Just drive." She didn't ask twice. She hit the gas, and we sped away from the life I had just escaped. The city lights blurred past us as she weaved through the streets, making sure we weren't being followed. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see Daniel's car, expecting him to appear out of nowhere and rip me from my one chance at freedom.
But he wasn't there. Not yet. We drove in silence for a while. The only sound was my shaky breathing and the soft hum of the engine. Finally, Olivia spoke. "You should go to the police, Clara." I stared at her. "You think they'll believe me?" You think Daniel won't twist everything and make me look crazy? She gripped the steering wheel tighter. He can't control everything. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But I had spent years watching Daniel manipulate people, charm them, make them doubt what was real and what wasn't. Still, I couldn't run forever. What if he finds me? My voice cracked. What if he? He won't, Olivia cut in firmly. Because this time, you're not alone. I swallowed hard, emotions clogging my throat. For so long, I had felt like I had no one. Like Daniel had erased every connection I had, leaving me isolated, dependent on him. But Olivia was here, and she wasn't afraid of him. She glanced at me again. I have a place you can stay. Somewhere safe. Where? A shelter. It's private. Secure. They'll help you. Help. A word I had almost forgotten. I nodded slowly, my fingers tightening around my bag. Okay. Olivia reached over and squeezed my hand gently. You did it, Clara. You got out. Tears burned in my eyes. For so long, I had convinced myself that leaving was impossible, that I would never be free. But here I was, miles away from that house, from that life. I was free. I wasn't sure what the future held. I knew Daniel wouldn't let go easily. He would search for me. He would try to pull me back. But this time, I was ready. This time, I wasn't alone. To anyone who feels trapped, like there's no way out, there is. I know it feels impossible. I know fear whispers in your ear, telling you that leaving is too dangerous, that no one will believe you. But you are stronger than you think. You are not alone. There are people who will help you, people who will stand by you and remind you of who you are outside of the fear. You deserve safety. You deserve love. You deserve freedom. And no matter how impossible it seems, please remember this. You can escape. You can rebuild. And you will find happiness again. Thank you for listening to this inspiring story. If you enjoy it, please kindly like and subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. Thank you.